This video is made possible by the EA Creator Network. Moment of truth. Oh, no.
Wait, does this mean Wattson superior?
Oh, man. Like, that's kind of big. That means, like, okay, if we're in a building and I throw my ult down, are these good legends? These aren't good legends to stack. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in the background, we're gonna have is early access footage showcasing Stormpoint. We're gonna have Conduit, and we're gonna discuss, this is a video. And by the way, I have Ross with me to introduce as well. Ross, can you give it a little hello?
Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are having a good one.
The resident Wattson expert here as well. So we're gonna do Conduit, a new legend, versus Wattson. And we got two Wattson players, you know, we main Wattson, right?
We do.
Spent a little too much time on Wattson, right?
I don't like to talk about it, but I do have a slight addiction. But you know, I mean,
that kind of sounds wrong. It kind of sounds wrong when you think about it.
Okay, well, don't put it that way. Don't put it that way.
Okay, I got you. So now, as you can see, where there's no lie. You're seeing all the gameplay. It's early access, and also shout out to EA supporting for the Creator Network and everything. Got the little overlay. Now, the biggest thing here is that you're also going to learn about the abilities as we go along. We're going to timestamp everything, so let's get into it. Let's talk about passive ability, and we're going to compare Wattson versus Conduit. Now, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Ross, by the way. So Conduit's passive, and I'll highlight it on screen, is Save Your Speed. Conduit gets a speed boost when running towards allies out of range of her tactical. What do you think about her passive ability?
I personally like it a lot. I think for someone who maybe wants to hold angles for your team, obviously it's kind of like for longer angles. I think it's really nice for you to be that player and then close the gap really fast. That passive really like helps you sort of play off your team and not really be behind, even though maybe you stagger yourself a little bit in your positioning. I think that can be very, very helpful. And also, let's say you get split up with your team and for some reason they have to run for it, and maybe you're stuck and you have to wait for the team that you're fighting to get third party or something. You just kind of have to ride it out until you can run. I think it's just very, very nice for being able to sort of get back with your team faster. I think I actually might prefer it over Wattson's passive.
Yeah, and I know that she has some perks to it, and we'll get into that in a second. Because I feel the same way. At first, I felt like it was very limited because you have to be looking at your teammate. But keep in mind, if your teammates play separate of each other and you're just trying to close the gap between teammate A or teammate B, or fall behind because you're looting, Save Your Speed really comes in clutch quite a bit. It does pop a lot. Did you find that?
Yeah, I was doing it on accident sometimes. I was like, I didn't understand how it worked the first few times, and then I realized, like, oh, as long as your crosshair is somewhat like towards where your teammates are, it's just gonna kick in automatically, and it's super convenient. But I also think if I play Conduit too much, I might get a little too spoiled.
I think so too.
To other legends, I might get mad. I'll be like, hey man, I'm kind of slow right now.
It's like having a free stim without losing any damage, especially because with that, you're trying to catch up to your teammates most of the time. And that's when people stim, when they do it improperly, because you're not supposed to stim to keep up. But this is like a free, oh man, you're kind of falling behind just a little bit. And it's nice because it also kind of gives you the reminder for the tactical. But before we get too much into that, when we talk about Wattson, where we see that Conduit is somewhat aggressive by keeping up or keeping pace, Wattson's Spark of Genius gives her shields over time. And I never felt like that was ever enough. And while it is giving shields, it's really slow, right?
Yeah, I think the other half of her passive might be actually it's not might be. In my opinion, is way more important than the shield regen. At least as it is right now with the how long it takes for you to actually regenerate shield. I've done it before in the range. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's every 2 seconds you get half of a shield, like 0.5 shield. It's something super slow, right? So it's basically non-existent unless you have like a lot of downtime. Yeah. But the other half of her Spark of Genius, you can carry 2 ult excels as Wattson, and popping each one individually gives you back your ultimate. And I think that is what's gonna really separate her and a lot of players who are trying to determine whether they want to play Conduit or Wattson. Do you want to play more defensive and always have your your ultimate ability and be able to stop all ordinances and just get free shield regen for your whole team, or would you rather be someone who's a little bit more mobile and have that in Conduit's kit with the Save Your Speed?
True, and it keeps you moving. To be fair, I mean, we have two different ways. One keeps you moving, and one keeps you stationary. And I feel like people are going to be like, "Why compare these two?" Well, I feel like everyone's going to. We got 2 electrical-based legends, and they both provide shield healing. No other legend that I can think of, right? I feel like I'm talking.
There's nobody else,
Yeah, nobody else provides shield healing. The only healer class that we have outside of this is Lifeline, and she provides flesh heals.
I mean, you should just count Octane, man. Come on, he heals.
Oh, that's
health,
true.
right?
I mean,
Nah,
there's that.
playing.
I guess it's like it's like comparing Octane versus Lifeline, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
Two different things, but they both do the same thing, but they don't. But they do.
It's like okay, because we're gonna get into it because then the ultimate is like the opposite of Wattson, which it's gonna be interesting. So let's segue to that. The tactical ability, right? As we're talking about the Conduit and giving shield healing, what did you think about Radiant Transfer? It's it blasts your ally with energy, regenerating temporary shields for them when in danger. Keep in mind that this tactical can also regen your shields as well, and your teammates. And also real quick for the passive ability, just as a reminder, it's as fast as like an Octane stim or I guess the Bangalore speed boost, just to give an example. So let's come back. Sorry about that, just extra little tip there. But with the shield healing, what did you think, Ross? How did you feel about this? Because you said something interesting to me earlier about this, and I want to see if you remember what you said.
You know what? It's been a long day. You know, I flew in this morning. I've been very, like, my brain's kind of fried. But I do remember talking about this. But I think that this is probably one of the coolest tacticals I've seen in the game. It's like a free, not to compare this to other video games, but there's another pretty large shooter where you can literally stim in the middle of fights, right? And you can heal. And this reminds me just of that. You know, you can literally use this tactical ability on your teammate and yourself at the same time while you're shooting. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought was crazy. I was like blasting, healing. You could even heal yourself while healing others and giving yourself shield, like just some temporary shield, of course, because this isn't temporary shield.
It's crazy. I think it's the ability to stay in the fight and heal. Because you know, if any other legend, if you want to heal, besides Lifeline, I guess if you play on your own or Wattson ult maybe.
Yeah.
But you're mobile. You're able to freely move around and continue fighting like you normally would, without having to sacrifice anything while you heal. And obviously, like you said, it's just shield and it is temporary.
How did you feel about being temporary? Because it lasts, it overlaps, like there's like a 2 or 3 seconds as it depletes completely, and you have to wait for 2 or 3 seconds before getting it back. How'd you feel about it?
I actually felt like it was in a really good spot. I felt like it, obviously talking about it, you know, if someone's listening right now and they haven't maybe seen anything, obviously they're probably watching the footage on the...
Yeah, we have footage in the background, yeah.
But it sounds like it could be a little overpowered, but I actually think it's in a pretty like healthy spot. I think it's the way it's designed is very fair, you know, and it's not like a tactical that you'll just press. I look at tacticals that are maybe a little OP, such as like Horizon's Q. For a long time I thought that was very busted for multiple reasons, but it doesn't feel like one of those tacticals where, you know, the second that you hit it, it just makes you so much harder to kill, like 100 times harder to kill. It still feels very fair and balanced. And I know it's not like a broken record, but I would not ask them to touch it at all.
No,
I think
that's
if there's one thing, they hit the nail on the head with this, I think.
I think so too. And it feels, I know most people are going to think that it's overpowered, but it didn't mean that you couldn't beat their team. Let's swap over to Wattson just for a second, talking about, because I feel like what they did is they flip-flop both Conduit. Conduit is just opposite Wattson. Is what it feels like, because the ultimate, when we get into it, is just literally a large perimeter fence. Let's talk about Wattson's iconic fence. With her fences, does this get in any way, shape, or form, without us talking about the ultimate yet, does this impact her power of her fences? Like, I mean, you and I have talked a lot about this, or like the power of Wattson. What do you think about this? How do you feel?
I just feel like if you're maybe a Wattson player who likes playing very aggressive, I know there's kind of almost like an art form to fencing. You know, it's really fun and like pretty to watch someone who knows how to fence while they're being aggressive with it.
Yes.
But I feel like for maybe people who also played Wattson because they did enjoy the other parts of her kit, such as like the ability to, you know, heal shields without necessarily like having to actually heal. I feel like in this situation, you know, the perimeter security is going to be definitely for people who are less aggressive and want the fight to come to them. It's going to feel like for a lot of Wattson players who maybe prefer to be aggressive, they might actually lean more into the Radiant Transfer instead of the perimeter security. Obviously, there's definitely going to be advantages for both of them. It's situational.
They're both squad play. They're all about the squad. When we think about these two legends, it's you have to have a good squad too to make them shine. It's not like, you know, one thing, because the thing that you said earlier that I found interesting is that Wattson was all about putting a gen, and I don't want to skip too far ahead, and then healing shield, but then Conduit does what we use the gen for when trying to play aggressively, but you get it as a tactical. That's crazy, you know?
Yeah, that's facts.
But you know, I don't know if it's going to mean that she's overpowered. And like, is it going to be an art form for how you manage that? You know, and most people I feel like that use this right off the rip aren't going to necessarily be overpowered with it.
Can I give you my hot take early?
Yes, give us a hot take. That's hopefully everyone's watching hears these hot takes.
Now that Conduit's out, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna stay on Wattson, so I might be an outlier.
Ooh.
I think Conduit will be the legend that all the controller Wattsons go to. And I think that Wattson will stay the legend that will be the legend for MK players.
That's actually crazy. You know what's interesting? I'm never gonna ban on our girl Wattson, okay? But I definitely want to main a lot of Conduit.
Oh, she's fun. Yeah, she's definitely she's a good time. I've enjoyed playing her a lot.
Yeah, I guess whenever somebody picks Wattson, I can play Conduit. If somebody picks Conduit, it's like a flavor of the month, right? They are. So, I know, like we're comparing them, but they do feel so similar, but in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can we talk about the fences leaning over to the ultimate ability, which is her energy barrier? Because it's almost like Conduit got a large fence, and you saw the ultimate how much space that thing carries, right? That thing is massive. Yeah. It is crazy the distance, but it's not as like. You can destroy them, but it takes way too much HP to do it. There's a short delay before they also pop. It takes like 4 seconds for them to pop properly. It's not like a fence. They're not as fast, and it's not an art form. It's more or less you shoot it and forget about it, and that's it. It's just like, you know, it's like a fuse ult, but with like fences. Imagine like fences come down and just like they're, I don't know, they are what they are, you know?
I think with fences, it's a lot easier with Wattson fences, it's a lot easier to control maybe fights in buildings, but I think you're going to see a lot of use for the energy barricade. I feel like it's going to be really, really good in stopping teams from rotating, you know, because you don't even have to, you've seen how far you can shoot the fences off of her ultimate. Like,
yeah, those things are massive.
You could be holding a high ground and you could be looking down a choke. I'm thinking of like multiple spots on World's Edge or Storm Point or any other map. That's so useful because now you're basically taking off a team's entire rotation, and they have to expose themselves to your LOS to break the fences, and it's what, 150 health. I don't even remember what, but it felt like you're emptying a whole mag every time you want to destroy a single node.
It was a significant amount. I'm not gonna lie, and I guess that you bring up a really solid point where they are mobile fences, and they're not as powerful inside. But she has a lot more flexibility, and the damage was only 10. I don't know if you saw it. It didn't tick as fast as a security fence either. You know, fences hit for what? 15, right?
I believe it's 15.
Or 20? I'm blanking. We're Wattson mains. What's wrong with us?
Dude, I've been out of time. I haven't played Apex in a week. I'm just doing my best to remember. It's 20, actually. It's 20. It's 20.
It's because they've buffed it. And keep in mind, like, I don't know, you just do things. You just kind of, like, get in the flow. That's our excuse, okay? Somebody's going to be like, these aren't real Wattsons that you're, like, almost 100,000.
You're not a real Wattson.
You're, like, you almost have 100,000 kills on Wattson. Like, we look bad, okay?
Yeah.
So this is a good segue. This is a good segue because now as we're talking about Wattson and we are comparing, the Conduit, the healing transfer is now Wattson Ultimate, right? That's what we've always known, shield healing. So when we compare both these ultimates, do you think that they fit, they make sense for what they are? Are these legends too similar? Now that because we all know what a Wattson pylon does. It stops grenades, it shield heals, like... Does this mean that Conduit's ultimate is weaker, or are both these legends just situational?
I believe a lot of it's going to be situational. I don't think for anybody who gets to experience both of them, I don't think that you'll be able to play Conduit and then say, I'd rather have Conduit late game than Wattson. I think Wattson will always be possibly one of the top 2 legends you want to have in a very late game in any sort of competitive Apex environment.
I agree.
Don't believe that Conduit provides that same amount of value. But early game and for more aggressive play styles, and even like in ALGS, if you have teams that are maybe not so focused on holding zone and maybe playing edge and try to take those fights, you're going to see maybe people lean into her a little bit more than Wattson. I think that's probably where you'll see the biggest difference, but I think it is just so situational. You'll definitely have moments in any match where you're on one legend and you're like, wow, like, oh, I'm on Conduit, but Wattson would have been amazing right there, and then vice versa.
So here's a thought, because I've been thinking about Wattson. I've been taking in what you're saying about Wattson always being the end game. What if you have a team with great synergy and you can constantly keep pushing because you have a mobile pylon and you can keep shield healing? Keep in mind they're temporary, and keep in mind, everyone that as you're watching, that these don't stack like a Revenant ultimate. Could you technically always just be on the attack because you have that ability to do so?
Yes, but I think the risk that comes with that is obviously going to be player to player, but playing like you always have that free shield, it works for a while, but if you do it too much, you sort of turn your brain off. And even the best players, like when they turn off their brain, sometimes you can make mistakes just because of the confidence that sort of comes with having that. And I think it might work temporarily, but in the long run, I feel that if you play like that, you'll probably notice, just say, wait, I'm not thinking anymore when I play, because I can push with my friend, they can queue both of us, and boom, like we can get back into the fight immediately. And as a result, you're going to start to stop caring about things like positioning, angles, when to peek, when not to peek, how to hold off somebody for your teammate if they're getting pushed, etc. And I feel like a lot of that sort of goes out the window if you're playing like super aggressive with Conduit, and you sort of like lose that mental edge, at least in those regards.
So I feel like what you're recommending, and I agree, is take the mindset of what you're taking with Wattson. Don't lose that defensive and that team play, but use it to enable your team to be more mobile. And I guess the next question I have, as we've covered every ability and we've kind of compared how they kind of flip-flop, could these legends be stacked together? Is that realistic whenever one is a temporary shield and then she throws her pylon? Does it feel redundant? Because it's just erasing the work that she does if you are stacked in a building, right?
I think there are possibly situations where they could play together. It does help a lot. I think one thing that makes this very possible is the fact that Conduit is a support class legend. I don't think we touched on that, but Wattson's a controller. Yeah. So Wattson can look at ring locations. But what's nice about Conduit is, let's say I'm playing Wattson, you're playing Conduit, I get absolutely rolled. You can literally just run away and your craft just gives back in. True. So I think there is some value in that aspect, as well as you, like you said, you can ultimately play a little bit more on the move when you do have Conduit, and you can also have a really strong end game with Wattson. But the hard part is figuring out who the third legend is, because not every legend works, and I feel like a lot of people might lean towards some sort of fragger, whether that's like a Horizon, Wraith. Yeah, I could even see Ash, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of testing, even a Revenant, honestly. Oh, let's actually, can I talk about that for a second?
Okay, sure.
Today I had the pleasure, I'm very depressed by the way, of fighting a Revenant and Revenant ult with red armor, also getting buffed by Catalyst Q. And let me tell you what, that was a living nightmare.
Oh,
that was
my God.
An absolute nightmare.
You mean Conduit Q? You mean Conduit Q? You said Catalyst.
Conduit Q. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, Conduit Q. Oh my gosh, man, dude. Literally, you thought the Revenant was invincible before? You haven't seen anything yet.
This man is immortal. He doesn't die. He's not just reborn. He's just immortal.
Yeah, he's Revenant immortal.
We didn't test it, and maybe we should go in the range and test it really quick. Does Conduit ultimate get broken by Wattson ultimate?
You mean if I already have my pylon down and if you were to throw it out?
Yeah, does it get eaten?
That's a good question. You wanna
let's go do that, and then we'll wrap up the video with some final thoughts. Let's do it. Let's go hop in.
Sure. I didn't even think about that. Wow, what a L Wattson.
I know, right?
I not think of that.
Moment of truth. Oh no!
Wait, does this mean Wattson's superior?
Oh man, like that's kind of big. That means like, okay, if we're in a building and I throw my ult down, are these good legends? These aren't good legends to stack. Also, why is my game stuck at 60 frames per second? My game is like...
it's an MK thing. Don't worry. It's fine.
Oh, okay. That was it earlier. We're on a test build, by the way, and that's what you've been seeing, all the footage, but it doesn't matter. For recording, they can't see the difference, but I can.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. With that information, what does that change? Your thoughts here?
Well, I think it just adds to more situations where Wattson might be better.
Yeah. You
overall,
think so?
Well, I still think at the end of the day, what they provide is very different.
Yeah.
I don't think you can necessarily go wrong with either, but I think if you want to play more patient, or with more regards to actually living, whether it's playing ranked, whether you're playing comp, or whether you're just playing pubs, like really playing to win. Yeah. I think you'll probably still lean more towards Wattson, even if you do have more of an aggressive playstyle. Yeah. But I do think Conduit is, if you're here to run and gun, or if you have like a really good anchor on your team and you just need someone who's like down to frag, and maybe you have someone else who can frag with you, like he will be unstoppable with the Conduit Q.
It's true. It's just, I guess it depends who you're paired with. So let's recap everything, and I'm going to show the abilities on screen. So we covered Conduit's passive ability and the comparison between Wattson's passive, where she gets the ability to bounce between teammates, and when she can run, you have to be looking at a teammate, so you can't just abuse this, essentially. And then it has to be running at a faster momentum. And then once you have it permanently like a stim until you catch up within 50 meters. Now with the tactical, you really have this temporary shield, and you do have to shield up at the end of the day, but it keeps you in the fight, and it has the ability to be more of a mobile gen like Wattson. But remember, when you're hit, you can't, it stops for a minute. So you really have to time it and make sure that you don't pop as too early, because then you'll waste that heal, because it overheals for a little bit, but I mean, you don't want to waste it, and you got to time it. So it's a little skill issue there. And then lastly, it's funny because Wattson and Conduit are a bit inverse. We have the Energy Brigade, which are like mobile fences that unfortunately are broken by Wattson Ultimate, and can really be great at gating outside, while Wattson still has the power inside with her fences. And a gen, like you said, is the most powerful tool that we could ever have. So pretty interesting stuff. Ross, any final thoughts on your end before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I think the last part that you said is probably the biggest takeaway, of nothing else. I believe that the most valuable part of Wattson's kit is still in her gen. I believe the most valuable part of Conduit's kit is going to be in her Q, her tactical ability, the Radiant Transfer. So just keep that in mind, you know. I think if you're not sure who you like more, and you've watched this video and you're still not sure, I think just go ahead and go play a little bit. You know, do an hour on Wattson, do an hour on Conduit, see how everything feels. Put yourself in a lot of situations where you're challenged to, you know, use these Legends kits to the fullest of their ability. And I think after that, you'll probably have a pretty strong feel. Especially since, you know, you had Daz and I cover it. We're like geniuses.
Yeah, we got you covered. Now you'll know who to play on the 31st. I mean, when this video releases, like, I'm not playing right now. I'm like, yeah, we know. And just now, but you're going to have this context going in, and you're going to have a lot of information. So this is coming from two well-versed Wattsons, one Conduit.
What do you mean?
What do I mean? I don't know, man. I think we should wrap up, right? Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys all in the next one, right?